And I think low-end content is bottoming out. And I don't think you're going to be able to get away with that anymore. And I think people are going to recognize that, because the last 2 years we've all been watching Netflix and Amazon Prime, and there's a certain level of quality people want and need now. And I think people are going to have to start to learn how to pay for that.
Joining me this week is corporate filmmaker Ryan Say. Now, Ryan and I go way back. I've been working with Ryan for several years now. He is my videographer and editor when I produce business films. And in this episode, we give our insights on how to get the best out of any video content you create for your business. Welcome to the Simon Says Video Podcast with your host, me, Simon Banks, where we talk about all things video and how this powerful medium can help you grow your business. We focus on how you can get a return on any video content you create. We talk about strategy, production, content, distribution, marketing, how you can get visible, gain new leads, and get new clients. Ryan Say, welcome to the show.
Hello, Simon. How are you? Good to be here.
So let's start with the question. Who is Ryan Say?
I just say I make videos for a living, because that's the easiest way. Because it's such a hard thing to explain, especially to someone that isn't in video. Because when you say something like a videographer, a lot of people, if you said that to any, like I say, normal person, they'd assume wedding. And I don't do weddings at all. But a lot of people assume videographer with weddings, and that's just how I've speaking to people. That's how I've seen it. And what I do is a bit different, because there's, well, as you know, there's the pre-production, the ideating, the how you're going to do this, the planning of the shoot, the actually turning up on the shoot, the directing, the getting everyone in the right place, and then shooting it and getting the good content, and then actually editing at the end, and then which is more your realm, is actually where the hell do you put it? What do you do with it at the end?
You know, I mean, I'm sure you get the same as I do. I still get people, contact me and go, I want to make a video. And, I do. People think I'm a videographer, and yes, well, I used to do a lot of filming, not so much now. I'm more of a producer. But you're right. There is so much more to video than just the actual filming part of a video. There's a lot of moving parts, and I think this is where a lot of businesses get a little bit stuck, I think, in terms of not understanding maybe the whole process.
I think all businesses get stuck because you've been doing this for years. It used to be the case of, I need a video. And then it would probably end up on VHS somewhere being handed out to people as a kind of, this is what we did for the day, or this is how we're promoting our new product. And it was a huge event, because it was like, well, you don't just do this every day. We'll have access to even small point and shoot cameras. And so, yeah, now it's just changed. So you have to do a bit of everything. And of course, because the barrier of entry is so low, you're shooting on a camera that, well, you can get a setup that's under £10,000. And as you know, that was
what about
back in the day.
You got
exactly. You got even that, yeah.
Right? I mean,
you got a smartphone, yeah.
These can record high quality video. I mean, I think that's part of the issue actually is overwhelm potentially with everything in terms of so much content out there. We are bombarded with something called social media. You've got websites, you've got podcasts, you've got everything under the sun now. So I think for a lot of businesses, it's where do you start? Where do you start? And video is often considered in the mix, but I often find that video is often put on the too hard basket in a way, because it's like, I'm not sure how that works, because I think people like you and myself and other video creators, it's not just about turning up to a client, turning up to an office, filming, and hey presto, you've got a video, right? So I just want to go back a step in terms of what are you seeing? You touched on it briefly, because you do a lot. There's a lot of things you do, and there's a lot of options in terms of the types of videos you create. What trends are you seeing when it comes to video?
Yeah, that is a big question. So I think the main, let's not call it an issue. The main challenge is, I think, especially with the pandemic of the last 2 years, everyone's realized we can all be online and we can all do things online. And so I think there's been this little panic of, well, we need to do stuff and we need to have content out there, even as a small business. And I think everyone realized what a great thing that was. And then the overwhelm kicked in really quickly. So now I have several clients that are just like, we need to put content out. We need to put content out. We just need to do stuff. And the issue comes up is that, yeah, we can all shoot that. But the two bottlenecks, as far as I'm concerned, and as it's veering off of trends, is just, it's the ideas and the execution. That's mainly the editing side of the execution. Those are the two things. But in terms of, that's like the bottleneck, because everyone wants to jump on the trend of video. And I'd say video is just, it is a trend in itself. And obviously with things like TikTok and Reels, everyone wants to get on that. But I don't think anyone really understands what they are and what to do with them and what the real ROI is. So I think the main trend is just jumping on video.
And now I think a lot of people jump in to create content for content's sake. And I think we've all been guilty of doing that. You think, oh my God, I've got to do something. I've got to put stuff out there. And therefore, quick, let's do video, because video is it. You know, I mean, let's face it, video is it. I mean, I'm biased. You're probably biased in this. Every platform you're on, social and on web, you know, is video. Even doing this. This is video, even though we're doing basically, which is equivalent to like a Zoom conversation recording online. And I think that's the thing that I have, and that's where I've sort of, especially over the last several years, is more about, before you do any video content, you know, you got to work out, well, why are you doing this? Who's it for? What goals do you want to achieve? What is the ROI? And I think a lot of businesses don't, and I've seen it from huge corporations right down to very small businesses. They just think, I just want a video. No, you don't want a video. You actually want a result. And I don't know, do you see that a lot of businesses jump in, just want a creative video or a video without actually thinking about what they want their video for?
Yes, you do see that to a certain extent. And I think the hardest part about this is that, and especially for a lot of businesses that are very entrenched in sales, you know, boots on the ground, we need to have salespeople out there selling stuff so we can get more stuff to then sell more stuff. And I think a lot of those kind of businesses really struggle with the ROI side of video. Like, they don't really understand it. And even when you try and explain it to someone, it's almost too ethereal for them to get. So it's like, so we're going to do all this video content. It's going to cost us, I don't know, let's say 20 grand over a year. We're going to have all this stuff out, but you can't guarantee that it's going to bring me more business. And it's like, well, there's two no's for that. One is, what have you done with it? Because I've made, I don't know, 50 videos for you over the year. You haven't even sent it out to your mailing list. You haven't made any effort to build up your socials. You haven't put it on your website front page. And from that point, it's very hard to try and get an ROI on that. But what I think they don't see is that, as you and I both do, and everyone does, is if you, I don't know, you Google landscape engineer or gardener in West London, where we are, you're going to look online and several things are going to come up first, and you may go down to all the way to that first page. You're going to click on one of them, and if there's no video or no photos or no sort of explanation of what they really do, you're probably going to move on to someone like, oh, there's John. Oh, he looks great. Yeah, he looks like he knows what he's doing. And that's the extent of what people want. They want confirmation that you know what you're doing, which is why it's a good idea as well to do. And a lot of business get tired by this. It's like, it's how-to content. You know, for example, I don't know, say if you're a glue company or something, it's like, this is the best way to glue two plastics together. And they might go, well, our customers don't want to know that. And it's like, yeah, but that doesn't matter, because when you do have a customer go on to your website / YouTube channel, they're then going to see, wow, these guys really know what they're doing. They do everything from sticking two plastics together to sticking a car to a building, you know. So they understand, they get to see your understanding fully of your product and your, let's say, or your knowledge of your industry.
It's the long-term game, really. I think there's two things here which I think the business need to focus on. One is consistency of content. And I think people don't do video consistently because it's more complicated than just sort of writing a blog or putting on maybe a webinar, or even just getting a salesperson to pick up the phone. What businesses are missing here is how video links in with your overall marketing and sales process. So video is not, people see video as a standalone, thinking, I do a video And it's a bit like, I'll just put it on YouTube and people will watch and people will buy. That doesn't work. All right, so it's about consistency. And the other one is about why video works so well is people can see you and hear you. And video is so good about building trust. Okay, because people can see and hear you. And if you're doing the kind of content, when you call it the how-to content, or I often call it educational content, basically you're educating your audience about this is what you not only what I do, but these are some tips and tricks and how-tos to help you, and that builds trust over time. And video, I would argue, is probably the best platform for that. It's about building trust. And I think that the issue with said businesses is they find video too hard. So how can businesses make video simpler?
Well, I think, and I know this sounds kind of brutal and self-serving, but they need to be a bit more open to listening to people that actually know about video and actually make video, really, and actually be prepared to pay for it. Because one of the things, actually, I just started working with a company, and they had a person that was doing their social media / marketing. And while they were very good at, writing the captions and, putting the content out there, they just didn't have any content because that person, I don't know. I mean, I was told roughly gets about 25K a year, right? But that's just for doing social media marketing of their business. The issue they were having is that they can't execute on the technical ability to create videos and to create photos and to have this constant flow of content coming out. Plus, they also need to have the ideas that they could put forward to, their team or the marketing team in general. And this is the issue I see that's coming up, is that it's actually quite expensive to do video. But at the same time, it doesn't necessarily have to be, because there are different ways of doing it. And one mistake as well is that even if you do have the person doing social media marketing, you might have someone else in your team that goes, oh, Dave, he likes shooting photos on the weekend. He does a bit of video, but Dave works in accounts, and do you really want to take him away from doing the accounting and chasing the money for people that need to pay your business into, oh, let's just get Dave to set up the video. And so then you're trying to move everything around and get people to do jobs they shouldn't do. So, yeah, I think it's something that and obviously, again, it's very self-serving. There's a way of, you can have your social media marketing person because they're in-house and they know what they're doing. But then you should think about hiring outside, because it's a cheaper way of getting the actual content executed. And this client I worked with, they said they had lots of ideas. They had the means to distribute, but they just didn't have the time or the talent to actually get the photos and videos done. But if you're looking, you're going to have to, I'm sure there are kids out there that would do it, but they don't, straight out of university, or they've just got their first camera and just want to get experience, and they've got 10,000 followers on Instagram, right? So they're immediately qualified to do social media marketing for your business. They don't understand business. They don't understand how to talk to clients. They don't understand the corporate world at all. They just go, oh, let's just make this sexy slow-mo nails dropping onto the floor or whatever it is, and they think that's job done, not really understanding what any of the clients want. And so in order to get social media marketing and a person that can deliver and execute and understand your business, you're looking at the higher end towards 100K a year to get one person that does that. And at the moment, if you want to talk about a trend, is I see businesses, they're not willing to pay that. And unfortunately, I think the lower end content, when you used to get the business entrepreneur holding their camera on a balcony somewhere, and I say with everything blown out in the background, even though I'm fully aware of this is a situation here, but you can't hear their audio at all because they're in the wind and they're on a balcony in the middle of nowhere in their shorts and t-shirt, And I think low end content is bottoming out, and I don't think you're going to be able to get away with that anymore. And I think people are going to recognize that, because the last 2 years we've been watching Netflix and Amazon Prime, and there's a certain level of quality people want and need now. And I think people are going to have to start to learn how to pay for that.
You and I know why video costs, okay? But let's unpack it for our audience. And I think video can seem to be expensive and is expensive it is if you see it as an expense, not as an investment. And that's if you do not link your expense or investment in video with your outcomes and an ROI and how you gain that ROI through the tracking and distribution and amplification of video. And the other point I think you touched on, which I think we need to clarify for our, for our potential clients and audience here is why is video expensive? And I think you touched on it, is in terms of video is not necessarily one person. If you look, if you look at it, you mentioned Netflix, and Prime. If you look at the credits at the end of any show, don't just see a handful of, you don't just see one or two people. You see literally hundreds of people.
Yeah, it's funny actually you mentioned Netflix because I actually did some extra work the other day and I went to Warner Bros. Studio and we were extras in this Netflix show that's coming out. It's a season 4, it's coming out next year. And it was actually quite inspiring because I've never been on a proper film set before. And they had like 4 people just dealing with us 15 passers-by. And that was just 4 people for us. And then you had the director, the DOP, the assistant director, and and then the set designers. And there was like, they took an hour to do a 10-second shot of a guy, like as they panned round the side of a building, and the girl walked down the road. That was all built, by the way, in Warner Bros. Studio. London was there, and everything was like you knock on it, and it's all like polystyrene and everything. And I sat there watching that, going, "Wow, this is like another level of." Just production. And it really made me think about how to do video production for what we do and for what clients do. And I thought, you know what? It's like people need to understand this because you watch your Netflix thing and you watch the series and go, well, that was a nice thing of Stranger Things. You don't really think, how much did that cost? How many people were doing that? And you had all that enjoyment. And it costs, and you don't even think about the cost. You just go, it's $10.99 a month for Netflix. So having done that, it really made me think about where the value is for our clients. And it's like, no, you can actually push it and you should make things look better and you should hire people. And I think what you will see as the client at the end is if you just hire someone for £300 or whatever it is, and they'll come and shoot your videos for you, you're going to generally feel at the end of the day you didn't get your money's worth. But if you pay a little bit more, say up to like, I don't know, $5,000 for a 1-day shoot and a few videos, but you get a producer, a camera guy, / director, and then a sound person, you're going to feel and experience the difference. And ultimately that will lead down to your ROI at the end because you're going to have a better quality product. You're going to have a better day. It's going to be less stressful for you. But generally, clients don't have a reference point. So when you come in and go, it's going to cost $5,000, they go, but Billy down the road does it for 300, and clients generally can't see the difference.
The reason why video does cost is because of the time, and you mentioned that how long it does take time to shoot, does take time to plan. The other one is the talent involved in terms of the crew, and I think you need to get away from thinking video is not necessarily. Well, people see it as a commodity, but it's not. So they think, I just employ £300 for a videographer to turn up. Well, you might do, but what you're actually paying for, and you've described that already, is you're paying for our experience. Okay, you're paying for our knowledge and experience and wisdom to basically how to make you look good and how to make your business look good. And I think businesses need to look at, how to present themselves to their leads, prospective clients, to clients, in terms of, which is why you can't do poor quality video. And unless you're a really crap business and really not very good, then that might suit you. But if I'm going to make the assumption that most businesses say that we're a good business, we're good with customer service, we're a professional outfit, we provide a quality product. Therefore, don't go cheap on video unless, because that will actually damage your brand if you put out a crap video. Now, I'm going to say that actually there is a place for what we call the blog style talking videos when someone's talking to camera. All right, it is good for social media. I would say, and you probably agree with me, just don't do one take. Do takes, get it edited to make you look better, things like that. I mean, I think there's nothing wrong with the quality of these. My only advice would be, and I'm sure you're the same, would be like, just it's about practice. It's about get some training and then get someone to edit it for you, just to make it look professional and to match your brand.
Yes, we talk about quality, and you mentioned your iPhone earlier. And I see lots of businesses online doing social content, and yeah, it's them going around their warehouse with like a cat with like an iPhone doing their bit. But and so, yeah, so it looks nice. It's the iPhone does a great job of making it all look good, and the audio isn't bad at all on an iPhone. But the problem now is that yeah, we've all got quality, but what else do you have? And the issue, and this is the really funny one, which is because I think it's one of those things where you're born with it or you aren't. And it's a hard thing. You can, obviously, everything can be learnt, but it's a hard thing to just know how to tell a story. That's why you have some of the best. I mean, if you look at stand-up comedians, you have really good ones that are very good at telling a story. Like Billy Connolly is amazing at telling a story. That's why he has so many people hooked, because it's the way he tells the story. Then you have other people like our actually, I don't know if anyone's seen it, our Rishi Sunak, who just put out the video online, get ready for Rishi, because he's applying or trying to be prime minister. And I watched his video and was like, that is one of the worst videos promoting him I've just ever seen. It was all done around the wrong way. It was rushed. It was like it was like just talking about himself for like the first 2.5 minutes and nothing to do with me. And I sat through it, but I noted I would have switched off at about 20 seconds in, because it was, look at me, look what my mum did, look at our people, look at this. And it's like, I don't care, Rishi. How are you going to make my tax cheaper, kind of thing? Or how are you going to do this living crisis? And I think they totally missed the ball. And it's all to do with storytelling, because the video looked great. It was very well executed. He looked good in it, but it's the storytelling. And I think this is a massive part that people do not think about, our potential clients don't think about. It's like, yeah, we've all got the quality now, but have you got the story?
I find when I work with businesses, quite often they're too close to their own business, and often they don't often see their story because they think, oh, yeah, that's I've been doing this for decades, and they struggle to tell it. So I think the issue is that most people, in my experience, businesses, and no matter what size again business you are, it's about communication, and sometimes people struggle with how to communicate their story to their audience. Hence why you need basically need some professionals to come in to help you tell your story. Not only that, but how you tell your story visually.
Well, yeah, I mean, there is that as well. But I mean, going back to what you're saying about the business owner, and they know their story, but they've been doing it for years. And this is one thing I see as a problem in a lot of businesses, is the ego gets in the way. And I can't tell you the amount of times I've turned up to a business, they're like, no, the CEO will do the interview. And yeah, John in the office, he's hilarious. He's so funny. He'll be great on camera. And they are the two worst people in the business to have on camera, because they just can't perform to camera. And what you tend to find is there's someone in there that's actually won't be the most obvious first choice, but delivers and tells a story really well. And it's about finding those people and then using them in the correct way and getting out of your own way to make to promote and market your business better. That's like my probably the biggest piece of advice I could say to anyone. Just get out of your own way, which I know we can all do that.
I think a lot of businesses try and do what I call, which we used to do a long time ago, was do the corporate video. I used to call it the magic bullet video, where you had one video, which is going to be 5 minutes long, and it tells all the story, it tells everything for everybody. So the idea is this video needs to appeal to prospects, to, clients, to old clients, to staff, to stakeholders. And I think that's one mistake businesses, you can't do one video that does everything. You need to do multiple video content as well, because otherwise, it's too much. Because then also, I think in this day and age, you do need more than one video. And the other thing I see, which, okay, this is the challenge, I think, for creators and video producers like us, is they often what I call we all over the video. All right. So it's like, we do this, we do that. We were established in 2003. We are based in lots of different cities here in the UK. And I think that's and that's where our challenge is, and that's where we can really support clients, is how do we get them away from focusing on just the what or the how they do it, to more the why, and actually how it benefits their clients.
Whenever we get a script, there's like this huge chunk, and it's usually about the fourth paragraph that you need to move up to the front, because people are very linear, and they talk and go, well, we've done this, we've done this, we've done it. And you're like, great, and it's then as the fourth paragraph goes, but this is what we can do for you, and it's like, no, you move that to the top. And I think that's the mistake people make, is that they have everything around the wrong way. And it's, you've got to, well, what is your video about, and what will it do for me? I mean, that's essentially your first 10 seconds. That's what you need to be doing, for the most part. Obviously, if you have, I'd say pretty much across the board, actually. What's the value for the person watching it?
So in terms of storytelling, if you notice, even if you're watching Netflix and other shows, it's not linear anymore. It's not linear. You don't start from the beginning, or, we started our business in 2003 and here we are today. It doesn't work that way. You've got to think more out of the box in terms of how do we hook our clients? How do we look our audience in? You've got, 8 seconds or less now to do that. So you've basically got to put that right at the front of the video now. All right. And then and then think about how you move sort of the story around so that it's going to engage with your audience, but also thinking from an audience point of view, put yourself in their shoes. It's like, why would I want to watch this video? What's in it for me?
And there is so much content online now that it's getting, when I say it's getting worse, I mean, it's great because there's more content online, but it means there's more competition. And I do believe there is room for everyone, and you will start to build your own audience. But I think there's huge changes coming now, especially in terms of social media content. And I think you need to, and it's almost YouTube that set the precedent for this, which is, I don't think people are necessarily looking for you, they're looking for what you know or what you can provide them. And like if you go to YouTube, for example, it's generally not people you're subscribed to, it's just they give you what they think you're interested in. And if it's skateboards, cars and dogs, you're going to see skateboards, cars and dogs, which I think is actually, just now saying that, which brings me on to another, I think an issue with a lot of especially corporate companies is, how do you make people interested in your your cupboards or your nails that you make, or your hinges, because it's a hard thing. People don't go, what, I'm really interested in hinges. And because what you'll find is the people that are out for procurement to get stuff in, for, like, say if they need to do a building or something, they might like skiing and frog watching. So when you try and advertise these people, they're not going to see that, because on the weekends that's what they're actually looking at. So they're only going to be looking at the stuff like that in works time, which is why it's so important. They're going to go hinges for doors, from whatever, and then your business is going to come up. And so you need to have that immediate kind of, you trust us, this is what we do for you, this is why we're the best. And actually, it's going on here, but you mentioned something about earlier on about, we were talking about the expense of video and why it's expensive. And it always strikes me as funny, where if you have a business that, they turn over like 4 or 5 million a year, and if you're like concerned about spending $5,000 on a video, like, I think you seriously need to think about what you're spending money on in your business. Because if you're turning over 5 million and making good profit from that, and you're going, ooh, $5,000 for the video that's going to go on our front page, and we could technically get about 30 videos on top of that as well, I don't know about paying that $5,000. And you're like, really? Like, so you'd rather pay Billy down the street 300 quid and get it over and done with?
No, the issue here is what I call the missing link. And that is between creating a video and tracking the ROI on the video. And that's just why people see videos as an expense rather than as investment. So I think the issue I have with basically businesses still see videos as an expense, and therefore not actually tracking it to see the results. And the other thing I think when it comes to video, which you also touched on, is you got to create content for where your market, where your audience are watching. When it comes to social media, you can translate some of that, but it should be shorter. But also, it's got to be more, it's the balance between how do you make it engaging and educational that people want to watch. Now, talk to me, because I know you do big on Instagram, and so you can tell a story in 15 seconds, right? You got stories or reels or TikTok. I mean, there's so much choice. So how can businesses translate what they do into this sort of new medium in terms of when it comes to TikTok and reels, for example?
This is something I think about all the time, and it's a very hard question to answer because everything is changing so quickly in this space. And Instagram are constantly testing new things, to, trying to keep up with TikTok. But then again, TikTok isn't necessarily the be all and end all of everything as well. And I think, I mean, you said it right. It's like you've got to think about where your audience are. And I think a lot of companies can get really tied up with that. Oh, but we need to be using Instagram. And it's like, well, what do you make? And it's like, let's say hinges, for example. And it's like, yeah, but how many people are on Instagram looking for hinges? And you've got to consider, well, probably not a lot. However, if you were to do lots of content about where your hinges end up, for example, they end up on like like to name a company, a Banham door, right? They use X hinges for their door. Now the thing is that again, a door might not seem that sexy, but there are a lot of people out there that do home renovation, and they are looking around to find a good door for their house. And there's a whole load of content on Instagram at the moment about people, like, it sounds crazy, but opening and shutting their doors. You can see into their nice house that's got all the fancy stuff in. And that's content at the moment on Instagram because it all looks really beautiful and all the houses look really nice. So you might have to go in through, I would say, the back door there. It's like you're not talking about your hinges, but you're talking about where your hinges end up and getting lots more like, oh, so we made these hinges for Banham, and then maybe going to see let's say like either WeWork or wherever they were put in, and you can go and do some content there of like, this is where they end up. Look how beautiful this looks, and all that kind of stuff. So it's about being creative and having the ideas to go beyond what your actual product is.
There are loads of ideas that we can have depending on where your audience and what you want to promote. I mean, I was talking to a client the other day. They do tires for ride-on mowers. And very, very niche. And I was talking to them about what they should be doing, because they're talking about content. I said, why don't you just do what we call, particularly for YouTube and for the website, is you got loads of tires. Why don't you just do a review of the tire? Here's tire XYZ3, and this tire is really good for does this, this, and this, and this tire is not so good for this. If you want it for this, you should have this tire. You know what I mean? And they were like, well, we just put a picture of the tire up, and I'm like, you will sell more tires if you actually, for each one of your major products, you do a little review video, which is sort of an honest review, pros and cons. And they were like, you can see the light bulb going off in their head because it's like, oh well, yeah, we could do it, but how do we do that? Now, this which circles back to your other issue in terms of, well, we've got some nice people in the warehouse who know how to use a smartphone, right? And so though they got the idea and saw the benefit, they really struggled with the execution. Is because the warehouse manager who knows about the product really well and who can actually, could actually be on camera quite easily, doesn't have the time.
That's always the time. And this is actually what I'm trying to do now a little bit more of, I guess, to sell myself a little bit here, is I'm trying to work on getting more retainer clients that work, because the pain point I'm seeing in a lot of corporate businesses, they want to do video, they have the ideas, they go, yes, we've got the camera because someone's got one somewhere, and then they go to do it. They'll probably do it for about a day and go, wow, that worked really well. Then they're like, well, how do we edit it? And if they're lucky, they might have someone there that's editing it, but the chances are they've got another job. So the intentions, I find, are there, but it's the execution of doing it and having someone to just guide them through that. Now, as part of having a retainer, what I would say to people is that for like, with someone like yourself, or myself, or a lot of other videographers who know what they're doing, they can have like a discovery day with a client and then find out what they want, and that kind of thing. And then you can work out, well, I tell you what, I can come in 2 days a month for you for X amount. And as long as you can give me at least 1 day of your time and about an hour or two beforehand of prep work, and go, right, on that day, we're going to come in, we're going to shoot this, and this. I will sort all that out in terms of, what we need to shoot, because I've now done a site visit, that kind of thing. So all I need is your attention for like 1 day a month. And out of that, depending on what the client requires, it could be they want 30 days worth of Instagram reels, which is fine. You can easily shoot that within a day, as long as you've done the pre-pro work and they know what their end goal is. Because while you can come up with ideas for people, I find it better that you need to talk to a client and find out what their goals are and what they want out of it. Because like you said, yeah, I've got loads of ideas for doing hinges. It's like, well, it doesn't really matter what my ideas are. It's because it's what do you want out of it, and then I can make that a reality and then guide you through that and help you with that. Because at the moment, like reels, for example, if you're doing Instagram, they only need to be like 7 seconds. And we're talking about, let's say if we were doing hinges or stuff, you could just go like, okay, here's 5 hinges with whatever trending music is at the moment. And there you are, you're done. That's one reel. But it's being able to shoot that properly, being able to edit that properly. And that's why it does help sometimes if they've got a social media person there who's looking at what's trending on Instagram or within their field, which usually helps. And again, if you wanted someone like our side to do that, yes, it will cost you more, because there's going to be a lot of research that goes into that. But again, it's like, where do you want to spend the money and your time? I think that's the main question. And I think the most time people waste is in the actual shooting of the videos and editing, because that's the hardest part.
So the idea is 1 day shoot could create, tons and tons of video content. But you've got to plan. You've got to be on the ball when it comes to the shoot day. You've got to rely on someone who can actually put all this content quickly together and also on brand. And then there's the other piece, which is then, what do you do with all this content? Okay. And this is where you got the strategy in place. This is where ideally you have a marketing person in-house who then has a content plan of how they distribute this, not only just where they post it, but in terms of how they, what we call amplify it, in terms of how do you get it in front of a new audience, and then make sure you're tracking it in terms of what engagement do you get? Do you get people viewing? Do you get people sharing? Do you get people commenting? And depending on your call to action, are actually people making inquiries? Are actually people coming to your website and pressing that buy button? Are they picking up their phone to find out more about your information? Because that is how you track it in terms of, particularly for most businesses want to increase their sales, you need to have that all linked together. And it does work. It does work.
It does work. And I think you've just touched on something there, which is worth considering, is that I think people get confused with what valuable ROI is because unfortunately a lot of people, they see stuff on YouTube or on TikTok and they go, wow, that got like 4 million views, and it's someone dancing with a chicken or something, and it's ridiculous, and in their brain it's like, oh, we need to go viral. And it's like, you really do not need to go viral. What you need to do is concentrate on the audience that's already there for you. And yes, it would be great if something goes viral. That's brilliant. But I hate to break it to you, it does not mean more sales. It just means you've had 4 million people see your hinge video that had a cat in it or whatever it was. And yes, it did really well, but like, will it come back to actually to your business? And it's yes, there is a good chance that out of those 4 million people that watched it, there might be people in there going, oh, actually, we make doors and this kind of stuff, and we might look into that company. But virality does not guarantee monetary ROI, and I think people get very confused with that.
So I think that's fine for what we call the top of the funnel, which is called awareness, if a client doesn't know about you. And this is where you need to create different video content depending on your funnel. So I think social, Reels, Instagram, Facebook is good for awareness potentially. But as clients get to know you, so the idea, if they watch a reel or watch a video on Instagram, they might start to follow you. They might like the video and start to follow you. And then, then you can create different longer types of content, potentially going deeper into a bit more of what you do, how you help clients, what your process is, how to stuff, right through down when they develop what we call, when they basically know you and then they like you. And then, hopefully they're looking at you getting content from them. They're now on your email list, for example, and you can start sending more video content to them, and to the stage where ideally they go, oh, we trust you now, and therefore I'm definitely going to buy from you. And this is sort of a simplification of a typical customer journey. And I think it depends, it doesn't matter what business you're in, you will have this journey. So whether it's selling hinges right through to you might be selling, whatever, £100,000 tractors or business services or something like that. The journey is generally the same. And I think where businesses need to look at more closely is that how does video fit into this journey?
It's funny because we talk about it and it seems all quite complicated, but I don't think anything's changed because, back in the 60s, you still would have had a customer journey, whether it's, advertising in the local paper or, in the local shops, putting posters up, that kind of thing, doing direct calls. It's changed. And now we have access to many more people. But obviously with the access to many more people, everyone else has access to many more people. So it becomes more challenging, I think, in that way.
You've got so much choice. You can reach a wider audience for so much cheaper. Now, because all the majority, pretty much all the content's online, you can actually track it. You can actually look at the analytics. And I think when we talk about analytics about, views of what we call vanity, all right? Yes, it's nice to get, wow, millions of views, but most businesses are probably happy with just a few hundred views, depends on your audience. But that's not the point. The point is not about the views, it's about what, how do they engage with your audience? What do they actually do with your audience? Are they sharing it? Are they actually clicking on a link to actually come back to your website? Are they actually then visiting the website and then buying something? Because I think majority of people with social media and YouTube is actually driving traffic back to your website. All right, that's probably the primary way a lot of businesses do business. In a way, you want people to look at your website because on your website there'll be more content, and there'll be likely you can have a buyer product, or you can make an inquiry by filling out a form, or you can actually pick up the phone and speak to someone to say, I'm interested in knowing more about what you do. I just want to sort of start to wrap things up here, Ryan, in terms of, obviously, I want to talk about editing, actually, because I know editing is one of the biggest bottlenecks when it comes to creating video content. And, what are your tips for businesses who sort of think, tell me more about editing and how do I sort of make this easier for me? What helps you to make editing easier and the videos better?
Well, I mean, the advantage I have for the most part is that I generally shoot what I edit, or at least I'm on set directing what I'm editing. We'll be editing later on. So I am constantly editing while I'm shooting. So it's kind of hard to explain, but it's kind of, I'm already creating it before we've even finished the day. Plus we've done pre-production as well. So we're pretty certain about what we're going to get in the final product anyway. And that's what I would say is that if you want to have an easier edit time, do more pre-production really, and be specific about what you want. Because if you go, well, we've decided we want a wide shot of the warehouse, and we want someone walking down one of the corridors, then we want them picking up a box, and then we want them, see them walk around the corner. We see a close-up of the box, and then they hand it to the next person, for example. It's like, to me, I already know how that's going to work, and I know the shots that I need, but I can kind of do that on the fly. So, but for someone wanting to have easier time editing, you need to pre-plan that. And then once you start pre-planning it, you'll get better at knowing what you need and what you don't need. I'd say that's one of the big things. The other thing is keep things simple, and do shorter clips as well. Like, do not leave the camera running for like 5 minutes while you're wandering around the warehouse, looking for bits to shoot. Obviously, yes, if you are doing an interview and they're sitting down or doing a piece of camera, yes, you leave the camera rolling for that long because that's the nature of that. But if you're doing these bits where you're going, oh, we'll just get you walking down here, just make sure those clips are like you're pressing stop and record in between each one, because later on when you're looking at it all in the timeline, it's seeing a 10-second clip in the timeline is much easier than trying to work out a whole 5-minute clip and cutting that up. Especially if you're using Final Cut, is that you can see if the clip's very short, you can see exactly what you're looking at. So you're like, oh well, there's the wide shot, there's the close up, there's that, bam, 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 in the timeline. Add the magic sprinkle of dust, which is a hard thing to explain, and then you export. But actually, the weird thing is that it's down to experience as well, because it's like the more you do something, the better you get at it. And if you have someone in your business or you've hired someone in, they're going to get better at filming and they're going to get better at editing over time, and then you will watch them grow. Now, the thing about that as well is that, yes, while let's say you're paying them a modest sum at the beginning, they're going to get, especially if they're young and they're watching a lot of YouTube on how-to stuff, they're going to get very good very quick. And then they're going to want to move on. And then you've lost your person that you had. And then you're going to have to train someone else or get them to understand your business. And one of the benefits of, I'd say, just as a sort of off tandem here about getting someone else to shoot and edit, is that because they're freelance, you can bring them in as and when you want or contract them in, but they will have like as Simon knows, we've had clients for like 5-6 years, and they might hire us in once or twice a year, but we know their business, they know us, they trust us, we trust them, they understand how the process works, and so everyone has a great time of it because there's this trust there. And it doesn't mean they have to spend, they don't have to employ someone to do it. They can just do it once or twice a year, or maybe more, depending on how it is. So I would say, that the editing is that you need to spend time learning how to do it. And just, I think it's keep it as simple as possible. That is the real key. Especially now with social media stuff, if you look at Reels and TikTok, a lot of it is just like 7-second clips, and they don't need to be super amazing or anything. They just need to show your content nicely, one clip after the other. But people still don't get how to edit on the beat or how to do certain cuts certain times, and it irritates the hell out of me. That does.
Ideally, so when it comes to filming, is to plan to create what we call B-roll, which is other shots, and plan actually that will take some time, because we want to get a variety of shots. So when it comes to the edit, basically a lot of our corporate work is what we call talking heads. We've got people talking to camera or off camera, whatever it may be. But to help the edit and to make it more engaging, you need some visuals, and those visuals could be simply in terms of other shots of your business and what you do in your process. And the idea is to plan to film that, okay, and takes time to film it. Make sure you got different shots. Now, if you're going to do it yourself, is what Ryan you're saying here is basically make sure you get lots of different shots from different angles, wide, middle, close up, which will help the editing. Because once the editing, the good thing about having different shots is if you've got someone talking to camera, everyone hesitates, deviates, ums and ers, and the magic of editing is that we can make someone sound brilliant on camera because we're doing lots of different edits. But to cover those edits, we need what we have other shots, which we call B-roll. So that really helps the editing. And the other thing we mentioned briefly, which is music, which is a whole different subject in itself. In terms of music, does help your video, but what would you say to music? What's your advice on using music in videos?
I think if you're going to take videos seriously, and do a lot of it in your business, and you're going to be editing and shooting in your business, I'd sign up. There's like a whole load of royalty-free sites. One's like my personal favorite, and one I use is Epidemic Sound, and you can get a commercial license. I think it's for like £350 a year or something, which basically means you can use any of their 80,000 tracks on there and sound effects for any of your online content. All you have to do is add it to a clear list, and then you don't get any royalty strikes or anything like that. And I think you can, because it's a commercial license, you can even use it for like Facebook ads and Instagram ads or YouTube ads or anything like that. It only gets really sticky, as I found out recently. You can't use it for TV. So if you're planning on doing a TV advert, you'll have to go down a whole different route.
Ryan, there's so much we could talk about. We could talk about for hours on so many different subjects when it comes to video. And maybe I'll have you back, and talk more specifically on certain aspects, like, for example, using music, post-production, shooting, TikTok, Reels. There's a lot to talk about. I really want to thank you for your time today. Where can listeners and viewers find you?
Ah, that's nice and easy. Well, it's just you can find me on Instagram at Ryan Say, and my website is ryansay.com. And I think on LinkedIn it's /Ryan Say. It's just my name everywhere. I don't do Twitter, so don't worry about looking there. But yeah, Instagram, website, and LinkedIn is where I'm at Ryan Say.
And I highly recommend that you follow Ryan on his Instagram account. He is so creative and fun with the videos he creates. So thanks for listening or watching. Don't forget to follow, like, subscribe, leave a review or a comment. Any feedback you give me is greatly appreciated. So please join me for the next episode of Simon Says Video. And if you can't wait until then, here are a couple of other episodes that I've already recorded.